So how do we go from what we hear when you say, I don't need a mentor, listen to your gut.
Yeah.
And then we go to listen to our gut and there's nothing there.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah,
I know so many women right now who feel that exact same way with different experiences. 70% of women deal with people pleasing.
Yeah.
Like can't break it.
Yeah.
Like trying so hard to break it.
So hard.
Yeah. And every time we people please for somebody else, we often end up betraying ourselves when it goes against, right, what you truly feel. And what's tough is that when you look at all the data, it is impossible to ever feel truly fulfilled if you're not showing up as who you fully are, right? And what you're saying is, okay, I'm trying to tap into who I fully am and I don't hear it. Like what happens if I hear nothing, right? Okay, so here's some quick tools really fast that have helped me because we learn, again, back to this, we make consensus for everyone else. We learn, so many of us, to play the role, right? We wake up in the world and we know, okay, if I need to do this to make my mom and dad happy, then I need to do this to make my teachers happy. Then if I don't get good grades, I feel like I'm also a failure. And we start learning that to get where we need to get, we have to make everyone else happy. And so we end up, often just losing touch even with who are we. Right. And a lot of women in their 40s, 50s, 60s right now couldn't answer, who am I?
Yep.
Who am I? And I think it only goes so far where you can make everyone else happy and then think, okay, well, I think that's what I'm supposed to do to feel fulfilled. But you still end up feeling, and I bet so many people watching us right now and listening to us can relate to this. If you feel like there's something missing, like almost like this anguish or aching thing inside, like you thought you would feel more fulfilled than you are because you've done everything right. You've shown up for everyone else. You've made everyone happy. You made your parents happy. You did the best you could with your kids, like all the things, and you still feel like, why is there something missing? It's because you as a soul, as expression of who you are, as who your creator made you, didn't make you to ignore who you are and to try to be there for everyone else. And so to start learning, how do you even hear your own intuition? This will be a little different for people depending on if they practice any particular faith, if they believe in the universe, if they don't believe in anything at all. But what I know is no matter your beliefs, every single one of us has a knowing, knowing. I feel like it is our soul. I think that our knowing is always more powerful than anyone else's advice or than anything else. And so getting in touch with it, I believe, is the only way to feel truly fulfilled in life. And it doesn't mean that you take worse care of other people. It doesn't mean, but it means that you actually, and this is a very new thing for our generation and generations to come after us. The idea that if you actually learn to take care of yourself, to hear yourself, to show up as who you truly are, it's not just that now you're not people pleasing and so you're letting everyone else down. It's that now you're setting the example of what you want the women who come after you to do for themselves, right? And when we think about like, oh, I just don't want to be selfish, and it's actually not about that. We think, oh, I'm showing up for everyone, because I don't want to be selfish, but really we are teaching our daughters and everyone else to sacrifice themselves too, because people see by example. And so I just want to say, for, I don't know who this is for today, but I know it is for someone listening, that to reframe this idea of taking care of yourself and meeting your own needs and asking yourself what you need is actually one of the greatest gifts. It's not selfish, it's actually selfless in a way, because it's one of the greatest gifts you can give to setting the example of how you want all of the other women in your family and friends circles to live as well. And so to start doing that, the biggest thing that has been the most helpful for me, because for many years of my life, like I remember when I was waitressing at Denny's, and I remember, thinking like, I have these big dreams, what if I could actually own this Denny's? What if I could be the manager at this Denny's? And I would start thinking all these, and I would watch like, how are the pancakes being, like, why are customers leaving because the pancakes are taking too long? Right. And I would just start watching all of it. And deep down inside, though, like I had that knowing, like, oh, I think I can do something like this.
Yeah.
And that's your soul, right? Yes, like a soul.
Yeah.
And then your thoughts, which are in your head, which
Yeah.
aren't who you are,
Yep.
talk yourself out of it real fast, right?
Yes.
So like I went through seasons in my life, even before I launched at Cosmetics, I had this gut feeling, this knowing, like, wait a minute, I have really bad rosacea on my face. Nothing has worked for me. No, products out there work. What if I could figure out how to create one? And that was a knowing, but then my head for the longest time was like, oh, but you've got no money. You have, you don't know, you have no connections in the beauty industry. You don't know what you're doing. You're unqualified. And I feel like so much of our life is sitting between learning to have discernment over hearing those hunches, the intuition, the knowing, which is our soul, and then hearing the thoughts, which is our mind. That's not who we are. It's all of the things we've been programmed to believe from often well-intentioned friends and family, from how we were raised, from commercials on television, from everything else. And so learning to separate the two. And when you start doing this, to get to your question, when you start doing this, the greatest tool I've learned is to just start by getting still.
I was just going to say, I bet you have to get the noise out.
Yeah, just get still. And this could look like, if you're blessed to have a whole room to do that in, great. If you got to go sit in the car all alone, that's okay. If you got to go in the closet, if you got to pretend you're going to the bathroom, you go in there and you close the door and you just get still and ask yourself, how do I feel? And you might not hear anything, and that's okay. And you just start one step at a time. And for some people, that looks like praying and asking God to talk to them, asking to hear, him. For other people, it's, asking the universe, can you speak to me divinely? Can you give me signs? Can you give me whispers? Can you give me hunches? For other people, it's just getting still and saying, like, what is my knowing or my soul telling me? And when you don't hear anything, that's okay. You just start the practice and you will start hearing. It'll start coming. And as you build your intuition, I see it as a muscle and almost like when you build a muscle in the gym and it comes with practice. And so the last thing I'll share about this that I think is a really great tool on how to build that knowing up is to just consider in your life right now, looking back at past times where, like, past situations where maybe you had this feeling like you want to do the thing, but then everyone around you was like, no, don't do that. And maybe you went against your own feeling and you listen to everyone else and then think about what happened. Or on the opposite side, think about a time when you trusted yourself, even though maybe someone's like, don't do that. And then you think about what was the outcome of that and how did that feel? So many of us can probably identify a past relationship where, like, we knew his phone didn't go missing. We knew, you know what I mean? Like, and all of our friends or family are like, get out of that relationship. Like, he is no good for you. And we're like, we're in love. And we're like, I think he just lost his phone and disappeared for a few days. I think that was his sister-in-law with him. Like, right? And we all have these experiences. And what's beautiful about them is that while they often suck at the time, when we think back to all those times of the moments whether it's we trusted ourselves or we didn't, and what happened, and the more we reflect on those, the stronger our intuition starts to build.
So you actually create confidence in your own self to make great thoughts and decisions in that moment.
And you start to feel, you can physically feel what that felt like at the time. Like if you
and I want to just point out for people that are listening, because I think there's two things that you're doing that are brilliant. One, when you're saying feel, you're pointing at your gut.
Yes.
And I think for me, I can really say that when I get a hunch and I feel it's an energy in my gut. It's like almost like somebody goes, boom, that's it. Like I don't feel it in my head. I feel it in my gut. So what I hear you saying is you're pointing at your head when you're like the thoughts, and the patterns of belief that stray us in the wrong direction.
Yes.
That's more of you can feel the energy in your head, as opposed to what you're saying is like when you have a knowing.
Yes.
It comes from a different body part.
Yes. Yeah. And what I'm excited about for anyone who's going to start like going, okay, you know what? This is the one change I'm going to make from this, from listening to Mindy and Jaime. I'm going to start going, what is my intuition telling me?
Yeah.
A really simple way to start this is, think about, I don't know, your friend group, or maybe your in-laws, or no, the in-laws are too dangerous. Okay. Think about your friend group, or, their colleagues at work, and think about, do you have that kind of feeling that maybe someone is not who they say they are? Right? We all can, or you're in the line to get coffee, and do you feel like instantly like someone just has a light inside of them and they're this beautiful soul, and do you feel like someone else maybe is really struggling? Like, we can sense these things.
Like a vibe,
it's a vibration.
It's a vibration.
It's a feeling.
Yeah, and I think it's like, if you're gonna, I've been doing lately is like not always turning the lights on to find something in a room.
Yes.
Like if my husband's asleep in a room and I got to go in and grab something, I'm like, don't turn the lights on, because you could train the other senses. Like, you can train your intuition as where it might be, your touch. There's so much you can learn if you don't turn the lights on. And that's what I'm hearing you say, is that if you're in touch with this vibration of knowing and you train it, then it comes to you quicker and quicker.
Yeah, and it's how we get in touch with who are we, because getting in touch with like your authentic self, and we hear that word so often, authentic, but so few people know who they really are.
Oh, no.
Who they and to feel fulfillment and to live the highest, truest expression of yourself, and to be truly close in a marriage, truly close in a friendship. If you're not in touch with who you are, you can only connect, whether it's with a partner, a friend, any other human being, you can only connect at the level of depth that you're connected with yourself. That's it.
Okay, wait, don't go. That was so good. And here's what I want to just point out for people that are listening, is that flips the paradigm on the people pleasing.
Yes.
Because if I need, like, let's just say you're in a marriage and you need the partner to behave a certain way so that you can please them and you could feel good, and then you're always pleasing people, you're actually not fully connecting to them.
Yeah.
So when you connect to yourself and you are authentically showing up the way you want and expressing yourself, you're actually pleasing them more because you're having a deeper connection.
Exactly. Yeah. And you actually feel fulfilled and you actually feel connected.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that are thinking that there's just something wrong with their partner or their friends or this or that. But the truth is, we have to learn who we are, to hear ourselves, to love ourselves, and that the depth of that will be that's going to be the ceiling of the depth in those other relationships. And so learning who you are, to your point, is such a beautiful offering to your partnership, to your friendships. Yeah. It's like the biggest gift you can give other people. And you think like, oh, and some people might not get it at first. They'll be like, you're growing. Are you changing? And you're like, that's the point. I am growing. I am changing. And I want to say too that this is so important, because a lot of women especially are like, oh, but what if I start to trust my gut and it's wrong?
Right.
What if I thought I listened to my intuition and then I fell flat on my face, or I failed miserably, or I went for the thing and I didn't get it. And as human beings, like, we're wired to avoid pain at all costs. So if we think that we can't trust ourselves, and if we do, we might be wrong, we just stay stagnant and we don't. And so I think what's so important is that what I believe deeply, because I look at all the times in my life that I've trusted myself, and even the times where I trusted myself and it didn't turn out how I thought it would. Yeah. What I know in my being is, and when you have this knowing too, I feel like it changes everything in your life. That when you trust your gut, when you trust your intuition, you hear it and you trust it, it's actually never wrong. It just results in either the next right step for you or the next right lesson you needed to learn.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. So it's always a positive thing. When you trust yourself,
can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong. And I think it's one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves. I go into a whole chapter in Worthy in the book on how do you really build that intuition and listen to yourself and how it literally results in the next right step when you trust it. Because sometimes we listen to our gut, we're like, I don't have clarity, right? And I share a story about how I waited 2 years on something to make a decision because I felt like I don't have crystal clear clarity, so I must not be ready. And that is one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves, that I'm not ready to put my idea out in the world, or I'm not ready to write the book, or I'm not ready to, hop on and share how I love Fast Like a Girl on social media, because what if, you know what I mean? And we think we're not ready, but it's not true. It's actually the biggest, perfectionism and readiness is just a lie we tell ourselves to stay stuck and to never do anything. If you get still and you work on hearing what feels right, and you just get a slight inkling, just take that step.
I've learned speed of implementation is important. When I get a gut feeling, I'm like, okay, go before the brain starts talking you out of it.
Yes, because your head will talk you out of it so fast.
And so there's I have to, when it hits in the gut, I'm like, we're going, because if I don't go with this idea, this thought, or this thing I want to create in my life, the brain's going to come in and tell me all the reasons why I can't do it.